Hi, Alec.
I'm
How are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing, Angela?
I'm good. So, you know a little bit about what I've been exploring the past few months, which is millennial Gen Z engagement in the arts.
Hmm.
You're a little different because I would say your whole existence is creativity in the arts, and I've been targeting people who aren't necessarily involved in that and curious as to are they interested and do they engage and what experiences do they want to have. But I really think that your story is important too because I want to learn from you what your experience has been like. So just briefly tell me a little bit about you got your degree in what and
Yeah,
where are you now?
of course. So my start with music and the performing arts, I think we can get into that because like where it comes from is important. But I went to the University of Dayton to get a bachelor's of music, and when I started looking for colleges and thinking about pursuing music as a career or performing as a career, I should say, I did not really know much about classical music. I knew like Irish folk songs because they were pretty songs. I knew about the Irish tenors. I knew about step dance. I knew that there were orchestras and that Beethoven was a person, but I didn't really know much about classical music until I got into university and started studying it. So then I left the University of Dayton with a bachelor's of music and a certificate of theater. And from there, I pursued a lot of different options, trying to see what was my career going to be like. So I went up to the University of Wisconsin, studied there for a bit. I worked with their opera company. And then I came down to Tampa, where I'm now, where my partner, my wife, she is had worked on her master's degree at the University of South Florida in music performance and classical music. And so since then, I've been teaching private lessons. I have been performing in church choirs or with orchestras or with community theaters, with opera companies, any kind of music performance that I can do. And now I've gotten a position at the Performing Arts Center in Tampa, the Strass Center for the Performing Arts, as an administrative assistant for our education and community outreach programs. So that I've been working on the inside of these organizations that I've been performing at. So I kind of got the best of both worlds. Still performing, but then I have the day job
Yeah, so
to
tell me a little
keep me
bit
grounded.
about, yeah, tell me a little bit about when you majored in musical theater. That's
So
what
it
you're,
was classical music, but I kind of made it a musical theater. That was the good thing about my school and my teachers. They really encouraged me to do whatever I wanted to do. Um, but yeah, it was classical music as early as like the 1500s, going into Gregorian chant, with then a minor in theater.
how did you get into that coming out of high school? And you said that you weren't that familiar with classical music. So how did
Yeah,
that happen?
it honestly by chance. I think everything happened by chance. I completely switched gears when I was getting ready for college from wanting to study like zoology and environmental conservation to deciding
Wow.
I wanted to do music. And the University of Dayton was close to home. Grew up in Columbus, Ohio, so Dayton about an hour away. It was close to home. The campus was a place that I liked being. And then they happened to have a music program, and I was like, fine, I'll do it. I auditioned, got in with the help of my choir teacher. But I always knew that I loved singing in choir. I was a part of the church choirs when I was a kid. I was in marching band. I did the theater program. So I always liked performing. And music was just what I had done the most of. That's what gave me the most access. Um,
So can you
but it
talk to
was,
me, walk me through a little bit about, did you say zoology? What,
yeah. Well, I
and
just
then,
like, yeah, I like animals. I like sciences.
okay, and so when was it that you changed your mind and what response did you get from your parents?
Well, I I think we all kind of came to the came to this resolution around the same time, and it was probably going into senior year, just because when we were thinking about all of the things, all the activities that I was doing, they just were all music related. They were all theater related. They were all performing, and so it just made sense. Um,
Did you ever get pushback that
no,
why did you major in that? Because what are you possibly going to do with a degree in music?
no, because I think we all had those same questions at the same time, and I think my parents were really, as far as parents can go, they were really encouraging of whatever we wanted to do, me and my siblings, whatever we wanted to do. And I think they were just happy that I was feeling confident about this decision,
Yeah.
that I
Yeah.
wasn't kind of coasting with the thing that I had decided that I wanted to do.
Hmm.
And they both have said, they both, like, I mean, we've talked about it and they've both asked, like, why did I not want to continue with sciences? And I don't really know that I know. I mean, I still look for ways to be outside now, or ways that I can engage what it is that I'm currently doing with the environment.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it just felt right.
So you are getting your undergrad and you're nearing
Mhm.
graduation. Are you talking about what am I going to do when I graduate? Does that conversation come up? I'm trying to get a sense of preparedness for a job in the arts and what that was like.
So I I think all hmm, I felt prepared. And in 2016, when I graduated, I felt prepared. Now, hindsight is always 2020, and I'm sure you would agree with this. We know more now about how prepared we actually were, and we've made completely different decisions just based off of the trajectory of life. But I came out of that school feeling like I could do anything, and I knew what it took to get there. The mindset that I had at the moment, so back in 2016 when I graduated, was I'm going to go get a master's in music and I'm going to learn how to teach and learn how to get better at my craft. So that way I can do go as many different avenues with it as possible. Um, and
Did the bu-
academic, hmm?
Yeah. Well, did the
And
business side of the arts come up at all, or was it the
it did.
craft? Okay.
It did. I didn't necessarily key into it at that point, but it absolutely did. Um, our As we were getting ready to leave, our school was trying to start a arts admin minor.
Yep.
And that was something that all of my teachers, everyone had talked about it. Whether or not I listened or paid attention, it was definitely something that they were keyed into. It was something that they were preaching. Like, you have to be more than just one thing as an artist, because you're not going to make money just doing that. And that's why I felt pretty confident at the time of, okay, I have my minor in theater. I'm going to get a master's in classical music so I can get really good at this craft so then I can teach it in whatever way I need to, whether that is to adults, whether that's to like whether I needed to go teach at a university somewhere, whether that was going to be an acting program, whether I was going to have a professional job as like a choir master, whatever that was going to be, I knew that I needed multiple tools. I needed multiple areas to rely on.
So it sounds like you came out of that prepared, like you had that drive and some tenacity
Hmm.
that you were going to continue to push forward. And it does have an entrepreneurial bent to it, meaning that you knew that you had to perhaps invent something or figure out which areas of the craft that you were going to go into.
Absolutely. No one has walked my exact path before,
Right.
but I can use a lot of different people's experiences to help me kind of make a guideline, kind of make some goalposts of what it is I should be doing. But I had colleagues of mine that I graduated with that applied to law school afterwards, just because they went to law school or they changed careers entirely and went into psychology and into therapy, whether music therapy or just regular therapy. Um, because what we learned as music students was a lot of soft skills, going back to something we talked about. It was interpersonal relationships, it was how to work under pressure, it was how to come up with solutions quickly, come up with creative solutions, working with different teams, working by ourselves, collaborating, receiving information. One of the things that we had to be comfortable with was receiving feedback and receiving criticism from a lot of different people. Some people were better at giving out criticism than others. So we just got used to that, not in an abusive way or not in a
Right.
malicious way, but just the that's the nature of performing.
Right. So
So
yeah, it's interesting because I'm teaching this class this semester and it's an arts management, arts entrepreneurial program, and
mm,
it's an advocacy and policy class. And four of the students, because I go around and ask them all pretty much similar questions, I'm just curious, what made you decide to go into this major? What reaction did you get? What do you think about a career path and all of that? Four of the students started out as business majors,
mm,
and like one said that he wants to go into HR, and one was in political science and business. And they've now switched to this arts management, arts entrepreneurial program, not because they necessarily want to go into the arts, but because they didn't agree with or feel 100% comfortable with the business school trajectory or program. And so I said, okay, I hear you all now. And so I'm going to say back to you what I'm hearing, which is when you were at the business school, it sounds very sterile and
mm,
very one dimensional and transactional. And they said,
mm,
yes. And I said, but somehow you found your way to an arts management program that still has a business bent to it, but perhaps is putting the humanity back into business. And they said, yes. So I thought it was really interesting that they're still business minded students, but they aren't getting what they need from a just traditional business college. And now they're looking at arts management as a way
mm.
to meet that business training while looking at all of these skills that you just described that are so transcending that you learn through arts and creativity.
Yeah, when you're putting together a team, like if a sports analogy, because most people know sports, when you're putting together a team, you don't have the same people with the same strengths in every single position. You have to have different people with different strengths working together for that outcome. And that's where I think getting a degree in music or arts or dance or theater isn't a waste if you don't follow that career trajectory. Like if you don't go into higher ed to teach music or whatever it is, it's not a waste. You are learning different skills that are going to make whatever your career is that much richer,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep. So you've been in Tampa, and what's that experience been like as far as expectations? You said you're now in the management side a little bit.
Mhm.
Describe to me your thoughts in that role.
Well, I think it's in this role, what I really appreciate is the amount of variety I've had from my performing experiences. I've worked with big opera companies, I've worked with improv theater, I've worked with schools and summer camps that are for children, for adults, and I see on the manager side, okay, what is it that insert teacher or insert performer or artist, what is it that they need to accomplish what they're doing? And I kind of know because I've been in their shoes. So even if it is just clerical work of what are the contracts, what are these items that I can get lined up for them, because I've been in their shoes, I have a little bit more skin in the game. I know what it is to help them do a successful job so that they don't have to be bogged down with extra work, that they can just go and make the art, that they can go and be the best teachers that they want to be. And that's something that I've really enjoyed about being in this position, that I was truthfully skeptical about. I was nervous about, like, man, am I going to be, does this does this make me a quitter for not just sticking to the grind and having all of my money come from performing? And no, I think it makes me a better performer. It makes me a better person. It makes me a more well-rounded artist to know all
Mhm.
sides of this.
What are some misconceptions that you think either other industries or just community has when they hear the arts and what they think is the arts?
That it is up on a pedestal, it's too far away, it's inaccessible. And that is something that we are combating all the time. Like, I've been talking about opera and orchestra and classical music, and if you want to talk about something that's so just outside of the everyday man's purview, it's an opera that's in a completely different language. So it's the appeared inaccessibility of it, where our job as the performers is trying to communicate different stories to different people, to bring more of a community together, to bring the personal connection. So I would say inaccessibility is something that we're thinking about all the time. And like how to bring new people in, whether that is the kind of art that we're doing, is it speaking to the community? Are we listening to the community and what it is that they want? Like here in Tampa, for example, there's a huge Cuban population and a huge Spanish speaking population. So then are we doing anything to cater to them? We've started to. The opera company that I work with specifically has created shows that are just doing all Spanish classical music, which in undergrad I had little to no experience singing Spanish classical music. And that was just because I didn't feel like it. And now I wish I did take an opportunity there, because it's a lot of the music that I do now is in Spanish. Um, so it's the inaccessibility, and then, like, are we doing anything special? Are we doing community outreach? Or are we making it feasible for people to come? Are we offering cheaper tickets? And a lot of times we are doing those things. It's just getting lost in the noise.
So to go to the inaccessibility and elitism and
Hmm.
that this is something that too I spend a lot of time thinking about. I am finding that the marketing and communications of nonprofit arts is pretty standard as far as utilizing their social media,
Hmm.
advertising performances, things like that. When I'm talking with millennials and Gen Zs, first I'm surprised at how many aren't on social media as much as I would have thought, and if they are, it's usually one, maybe two channels. It's not like this,
Hmm.
we're on everywhere, which has been eye-opening to me. And if you're not in the arts, and you know, we all know that what we scroll is what we're searching. So if they're not seeking it out, they're not aware of what's happening. So
Hmm.
I've started suggesting that perhaps organizations, rather than spending money on Facebook ads or Instagram ads or things like that, that they start thinking like a brand,
Hmm.
because in essence you are a brand. So if you start thinking like a brand, perhaps you would engage influencers or get someone or two people in that under 40 demographic to come out and create content on their channels, and then you can reshare that. But by doing that, it's getting into their feeds, because what I'm finding is word of mouth is the number one way that they are getting information about what's going on.
Hmm.
Number two, I've been surprised they do want to engage in traditional art form. They just don't know really where it is or how accessible it is. And so I've gone from, if there was a beer truck or food trucks out front,
Hmm.
and I knew that it's something that was easy come and go, yes, I would be interested. Or, hey, we'd like to dress up and go out to dinner and do something special. We're just not familiar with what that is. So
Yeah.
price
It
isn't
feels like there's this
necessary.
bar that they have to get over, and like if you're not doing it right, like, oh, I don't want to. Am I not
Correct.
supposed to wear jeans? What am I supposed to wear? Are people gonna judge me?
100%.
Yeah.
Right. So I often say, are you marketing to the audience you have or the audience you want? And I think there's a balance for both.
Hmm.
Um,
Those orchestras understanding, okay, we need to cater to these audiences. And so the appetite is there from both sides, right? The appetite is there from classically trained musicians to do newer music, to do anything. And the appetite is there obviously from the audience. They just need to know about it. If I we were talking earlier about the back in the 60s or the 50s, the average age of people that attended the symphony was 37, right? But if I also think about who were the people in the 50s and 60s, what are the kind of music that they were listening to? They were listening to the Gershwins, right? The Gershwins or Cole Porter or Rodgers and Hammerstein. These people that we think of as giants in classical music now, and also as dead people, they were the modern pop music singers
right.
of that age.
They were the
They were the
contemporaries.
contemporaries.
Right.
Yeah. So it's how do we get that? How do we start to build that? And that is bringing in and encouraging and enlisting new performers, new artists to create work, whether that's new plays, new symphonies, whatever it is. I think John Baptiste is a perfect example of that now,
Yeah.
of bringing classical music tradition with current popular music tastes.
But again, if that information's not getting out there, I had somebody else I talked to,
Yeah.
and for 15 minutes, she moved to Boston, didn't know anybody, asked for a museum membership for her birthday just so she could get out socially. 15 minutes, she's talking about all of the museums in Boston. And I said to her, so visual arts is your art of choice? And she said, no, actually, I love orchestras. And I was like, what? You just spent 20 minutes describing every museum orchestra. She said, I love music. I love music live, whether it's
Hmm.
orchestras. I think of movies. She's just really went into like descriptive words about live music, classical music.
Hmm.
And when I said, where do you get your information about the museums? Instagram. I said, okay, so do you follow the Boston Symphony on Instagram? And she said, no, I don't even know if they have an Instagram account.
Yeah.
So where are we falling short from an organization in getting the information out to those that we know have the appetite? Again, I'm going back to, I think marketing and communications, we need to turn it on its head. I think we need to talk about what an audience member is going to benefit from. What are they going to get from this performance? Or I
Hmm.
had someone else say, I love historic art. I love traditional classical art, but I want to know the story behind it. I want to know why it was made, what it's about, all of that. So if we could think about how can we in a more creative way market and communicate these performances, because again, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I agree with, John Baptiste and all of these others and Leve. Yes, it's there, but if the audience that we're aiming for that would totally be into that aren't aware, it's in a vacuum again.
It is. And I think part of the way to get out of it is there's is just more of it. We've been living in, I think, a time where there is so much content. We are oversaturated with content. And then I think has led to the appetite of wanting to try out new and different things. Like, where am I going to go see a show? What show am I going to go see? I don't know, but I'm going to go see some. Like, I think the oversaturation of content immediately at our fingertips has made it hard to break through the noise. Um, I think like that's one part of it. So just getting more performing opportunities and investing from a performance from a venue standpoint, investing in more diverse repertoire. Like,
Yeah,
there is a trend recently that I'm love, which is orchestras playing the scores to movies
right,
while they're playing on the big screen. I mean,
right.
that's a technological advancement that we have now to have projectors that big. But if you think about movies way back in the day, it was
That's
someone
the
on an
big,
organ
right,
playing the score along at the beginning. So this is
right.
almost returning to that tradition.
Yeah.
Um,
What do you think about when I suggested that these organizations think like a brand?
I think that was actually like a crazy good idea because that's me as a musician. I have to think of myself as a brand. So it totally makes sense for an organization to think of themselves as a brand, just like a piece of clothing. How am I going to get people to buy this clothing? Oh, I'm going to have other people try it on. I
Check out the Royal Opera House on Instagram, and when you
mhm,
think about it, because they are the one that I found that is having these 40 and under come to their events, and they are, dressed up with the champagne and then saying, "Oh, I didn't realize that I can't take my drink into the performance, so I better hurry up and drink this while I'm out here." And then
yeah,
there's, a couple doing something else. Again, I think if we um bring down that elitist, bring down that whole idea of the how approachable it is, um there's so much room for improvement from that standpoint. And I think that's still the disconnect that we've got to take risks in how we market
mhm.
the programming.
And I think some of it too is unfortunately a money game. The Royal Opera House, I
Yes.
do follow them. They're one of like the biggest the biggest organizations out there, the biggest performing arts organization, and they have the finances to back that up. Where we don't
Right.
have as much at our fingertips. So it it sometimes
Yeah.
does come down to money, even though creative solutions can go beyond financial barriers.
Right.
Sometimes it is as simple as a money
Yeah.
game.
Here's another thing too. Yes, I agree. And so I often think of if we're ready to if we're willing to do buy one get one, right?
Mhm.
Or $10 tickets or things like that. If we
Yeah.
would comp for people, and I also get, I mean, the whole constraints of you can't film while they're performing, that's like a whole other thing where
Mhm.
all of those things we're like shooting ourselves in the foot right now from that standpoint, but we could get creative with how do we help them create content. But I'm just wondering, as an experiment, like if for 3 months um we comped tickets and had them come and again just almost like a test market, see what would you create. Or another idea, I don't know if you all do restaurant week down there, or
Mhm.
we'll have Instagram where they're they're always posting on like life in, and it's whatever city, right? And it's the account is posting 5 new restaurants to try, look at these coffee houses, all of that. And I had someone suggest that perhaps arts organizations partner with those Instagram accounts. How they do those
Yeah.
giveaways
Yeah.
and do giveaways, which to me, it's like, well, yes, that sounds so simple. Do 2 ticket giveaway if you like your organization, like that organization, and post a comment, and then you're going to draw 2 names. Again, think like a brand, how these others are marketing and getting the information out. I'm just curious if we presented it to an organization, rather than thinking of, and I hear you,
Mhm.
the cost output and comparing to Royal Opera House, but let's try an experiment, and
Yeah.
let's try it, or get interns from college and get marketing interns, not necessarily arts, but somehow have, and that's where the professional development aspect of this to me is
Hmm.
so important. How do we get funding for internships for organizations? There are just all of these ideas that I think about all the time.
Yeah, I think one of the things that like um, I I agree, and my wheels are turning on all of these things. But like, I want to come with like here's like a good thing that we are doing. I we have a huge grant. We have grants that we get every year that are for free tickets that we give out that are for all of our school partnerships. And so we will say, all right, you want to go to this Broadway show? Here are tickets. You want to go to this opera? Here are tickets. And that is just a no strings attached free tickets for schools in our community for kids as additional opportunities. So it's something that if other organizations are doing it, like I have to believe that other organizations are doing this
Yes.
same program that we are.
Yes.
It's we are doing this. It is
Right.
happening. It's just not to the same volume that I think we ultimately need to keep this art form or to keep any of these art forms sustainable for future generations, you know?